Most people are one missed paycheck away from losing everything. Think about that. Really think about it. You wake up every single morning and trade the most valuable thing you own, your time, for a fixed number that someone else decided you were worth. You show up, you perform, you deliver, and at the end of the month, a number lands in your account. The same number. Whether you worked brilliantly or barely. Whether you created enormous value or simply got through the week. And here is the part nobody says out loud. The moment you stop showing up, the money stops too. That is not security. That is dependency dressed up as stability. The people who are building real wealth, real freedom, real lives that do not require their constant presence to survive, they are not thinking about salaries at all. They are thinking about something entirely different. They are thinking about systems. So before we go any further, I want you to stop and ask yourself one honest question. If you stopped working tomorrow, for 6 months, how long would your income last? Hold that answer. Because everything in this audiobook is built around changing it. By the time this audiobook ends, you will see money, work, and time in a way you cannot unsee. Not through get-rich-quick fantasy. Not through unrealistic promises about passive income arriving overnight without effort. Through a fundamental shift in how you think about value, time, and the relationship between the two. The salary mindset trades time for money, every single day, forever. The systems mindset builds something once, or builds it gradually, that continues generating value long after the work that created it is finished. One keeps you running. The other sets you free. 5 chapters. 1 transformation. Let's begin. Imagine 2 people. Same age. Same education. Same starting point. The first one gets a job. A good job. A well-paying, respected, stable job. And they are grateful for it. They work hard, they get raises, they climb the ladder, and 40 years later they retire. With a pension and a gold watch and the quiet, nagging sense that they traded 4 decades of their life for a number that someone else controlled. The second one works too. Just as hard. Maybe harder in the early years. But they are not just working for income. They are building. Every hour they invest is building something that will still be generating value when they are not in the room. A business. A content library. A portfolio. A skill set so rare it commands its own market. A system. 20 years later, the second person wakes up in the morning and chooses whether to work. Not because they must, but because they want to. The money keeps moving whether or not. They are moving with it. The difference between those 2 lives is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not timing or talent. Or privilege. It is a single shift in thinking. From salary to system. From trading time for money to building something that earns independently of your direct, daily, irreplaceable presence. That shift is available to you. Starting today. With whatever you currently have. Chapter 1. The salary. You were never taught how money actually works. You were taught how to earn it for someone else. From the earliest age, the message is consistent. Study hard, get qualifications, find a good job, work for 30 years, retire. This is the map most people receive. And for many people, for much of history, it was a reasonable map. But here is what that map never shows you. A salary is a transaction in which you sell the one resource you can never replace, time, for a fixed price that someone else sets, with conditions that someone else controls, and the moment that transaction ends, the income ends with it. There is no residual. There is no compounding. There is no asset that keeps working while you sleep. You work. You get paid. You stop working. It stops. This is the fundamental architecture of the salary structure. And it has a specific and serious limitation. Your income is permanently capped by the number of hours available to you, the rate someone else is willing to pay for those hours, and your own physical and mental capacity to keep showing up. There are only so many hours. There is a ceiling on what any employer will pay. And the human body and mind have limits. The salary trap is not about the salary being bad. A salary can be excellent. The trap is in believing that a salary alone is a sufficient strategy for financial life. That trading time for money at a fixed rate is a complete answer to the question of how to build security, freedom, and a life on your own terms. It is not. It is a beginning. For most people, it should not be the end. Example. Think about the highest paid employee at almost any company. They earn well. They have comfort. They have benefits and stability and respect. And then one morning the company restructures, the role is eliminated, and 30 years of climbing becomes zero income overnight. Not because they did anything wrong. Not because they were not talented or dedicated. But because the entire structure they built their financial life on was owned by someone else and subject to someone else's decisions at all times. The salary was never security. It was access. And access can be revoked. Reflection. When did you last calculate what your time is actually worth, not what your employer pays for it, but what it is genuinely worth in the market? And what percentage of your financial life depends entirely on one source, one employer, one transaction that you do not control? Transition. The salary trap is not a prison you cannot leave. It is a starting point. You were never taught to move beyond. And the first step to moving beyond it is understanding what a system actually is. Chapter 2. What a system actually is. A system is not a magic income source. It is a structure you build deliberately that generates value independently of your direct, daily, hourly presence. Lesson. Most people hear the word system and imagine something technical, complicated, or requiring enormous capital to build. A factory. A real estate empire. A technology platform. But a system is far simpler than that. A system is any arrangement through which value is created and delivered without requiring you to personally perform every step every time. A book is a system. You write it once. People buy it for decades. A YouTube channel built on evergreen content is a system. You create the video once. It gets watched 10,000 times. Without you doing anything additional. A business with genuine processes and a team is a system. It delivers value while you sleep. A portfolio of investments is a system. Capital. Working on your behalf around the clock. Here is the core principle. Your time is the only truly limited resource you possess. And every hour you spend creating something that generates value beyond that single hour is an hour that compounds. Every hour you spend simply trading your presence for a payment that stops. The moment you leave is an hour that disappears. Systems are the mechanism through which time gets leveraged. Through which the work you do today can earn for you not just today but tomorrow, next year, and a decade from now. The most important question you can ask about any work you do is not how much does this pay right now. It is does this build something that will keep paying after the work is finished? Example. Consider two people who both spend 100 hours on a project. The first person spends those hours completing client work. They deliver, they get paid, the engagement ends. The 100 hours produced a single payment. The second person spends those same 100 hours building a course on the skill there. Clients hire them for. The course takes the same expertise, the same effort, the same quality. But it can be purchased by 1,000 people. 5,000 people. It generates income. Every day without the second person doing additional work. Same 100 hours. Completely different architecture of income. Reflection. Look at the work you do most frequently and most skillfully. Is there a way to build a system around that work, a product, a course, a content library? A process that captures its value more than once? Transition. Understanding what a system is opens the first door. But there is a specific reason most people never walk through it. And that reason has nothing to do with opportunity and everything to do with mindset. Chapter 3. The mindset that keeps people poor. Hook. The most expensive belief most people carry is not about money at all. It is about time. Lesson. The salary mindset has a specific relationship with time. It treats time as something to be traded immediately for money. Every hour is evaluated by its immediate return. If something does not pay now, it feels like a waste. This is the deepest psychological barrier to building systems. Because systems require the exact opposite relationship with time. They require the willingness to invest time now without immediate return, trusting that the structure being built will generate return later, consistently. And beyond what direct trading of time could ever produce. The person trapped in the salary mindset cannot sustain that patience. They cannot tolerate building something that earns nothing for 3 months while their salary keeps the lights on. So they do not build. They keep trading. And the system never gets started. There are 3 specific mindset shifts required to move from salary thinking to system thinking. The first shift is from income to assets. Stop asking how much can I earn this month and start asking what am I building that will have value beyond this month. The asset mindset values creation over transaction. The second shift is from security to leverage. The salary feels like security. The system feels like a risk. But the salary is a dependency and the system is an asset. Real security is not one employer who can eliminate your position. Real security is multiple income streams with no single point of failure. The third shift is from time spent to value created. The salary pays for your time. The system pays for the value it delivers. When you build something that creates genuine value for people, the income is no longer limited by your hours. It is limited only by how much value the system delivers and how many people it reaches. Example. Think about someone who has been writing for years. They are skilled. They have expertise. Every month they write content for clients and get paid for the hours they invest. Then one year they decide to compile their knowledge into a book. Same skill. Same expertise. But now the knowledge is an asset. It earns while they sleep, while they are on holiday, while they are working on other things. The writing did not change. The architecture around it did. Reflection. Where in your life are you currently trading when you could be building? Where does your expertise, your skill, your knowledge exist only in your head and your direct service, when it could exist in a format that works independently of your presence? Transition. The mindset shift is the internal work. But it requires an external counterpart. A practical understanding of what systems are available to anyone willing to build them. Chapter 4. The systems available to anyone. Hook. You do not need to be wealthy to start building a system. You need to Start. Lesson. The most powerful systems available today require less capital than any previous era in history. They require time, skill, and consistency. All three are available to almost everyone. The first system is content. A YouTube channel, a podcast, a newsletter, a blog. Content built around genuine expertise creates an asset that earns advertising revenue, sponsorships, course sales, and consulting opportunities, often years after it was created. The most powerful content is evergreen, meaning it remains relevant and searchable regardless of when it was made. One video explaining a timeless concept can be watched 1 million times over 10 years. That is leverage. The second system is digital products. Courses, ebooks, templates, tools. You build the product once. It can be sold infinitely. The margin is extraordinary because the cost of delivering a digital product to the 1,000th customer is essentially the same as delivering it to the first. The third system is a service business with processes. Not a freelance practice where everything depends on your direct involvement, but a business with documented systems, team members, and processes that deliver value without requiring you to personally perform every step. The goal is to move from being a person who does the work to being a person who owns the system that does the work. The fourth system is investment. Capital deployed into assets, equities, real estate. Businesses that generate returns independent of your direct labor. This requires capital to start. But capital is built from the profits of the other systems. The fifth system is licensing and royalties. Your intellectual property, your methods, your creative work, your inventions, licensed to others who pay for the right to use them. Every payment is income generated not by your time in that moment but by something you created once. None of these systems produce income immediately. All of them produce income consistently once built. And the most important thing to understand is that building one system changes everything. Because one system generating income creates the space, financial and psychological, to build the next. Example. Consider someone who has spent 5 years as an expert in a specific field. They have been paid hourly for their expertise. 1 year they decide to create an online course that teaches what they know. They spend 3 months building it. Then they spend the next year learning to market it. In year 2 the course earns more passively than they were making actively. In year 3 they use the income from the course to hire help, create more products, and build a business that operates without them. The first system was the hardest. Everything after it was built on its foundation. Reflection. Which of the 5 systems is most aligned with your current knowledge, skill, and available time? You do not need to choose all 5. You need to start one. Transition. The systems are available. The mindset shift is possible. But there is one final piece that determines whether any of this actually happens. The willingness to begin before you feel ready. Chapter 5. Start before you are ready. Hook. The system you do not start today is the income you will not have in 3 years. Lesson. Every system takes time to build. This is the non-negotiable reality. A YouTube channel takes months to find its audience. A course takes months to build and months to sell. A business takes years to systemize. There is no shortcut. Which means the only question that matters is when to begin. And the answer is always the same. Now. With what you have. From where you are. The person who waits until they have more time will wait forever. Because more time does not appear. It is made. By deciding that the system is important enough to protect time for, even in small amounts, even before it is paying anything. The person who waits until they have more knowledge will also wait forever. Because the most important knowledge about building a system comes from building it. Not from studying. Building it. The first version will be imperfect. That is not a problem. That is the process. The person who waits until the risk is lower will discover that the risk never feels lower. Starting always feels like a risk. Because it is. But here is the alternative risk that nobody calculates. The risk of reaching 60 years old having traded every working hour of your life for a salary that stopped the day you stopped, with no asset, no system, no income that exists independently of your presence. That risk is enormous. It simply does not feel immediate. And humans are poor at taking long-term risks seriously until they arrive. Start now. Build imperfectly. Learn from what you build. Improve the system over time. And trust in the mathematics of compounding. Because compounding is not just a financial principle. It is a life principle. The system built for 3 years is exponentially more valuable than the system built for 1 year. The content library created over 5 years has a reach and an earning power that is almost incomprehensible compared to what it was at month 6. Time in the game is the variable that matters most. And time in the game begins the day you start. Example. Think about every major content creator, every successful online business, every person generating income from systems rather than salaries. Without exception, they all have one thing in common. They started before it was working. They published before anyone was watching. They built before there was any proof it would succeed. And they kept building through the period when the evidence of success was thin because they understood that the evidence was not thin because the strategy was wrong. It was thin because time is required for systems to compound. The ones who stopped during that thin period never found out what was on the other side. The ones who kept going discovered that the other side was everything they had been working toward. Reflection. What is the one system you could begin building this week? Not perfectly. Not with everything in place. Just the first step. The first video. The first chapter. The first version. The first proof of concept. What is stopping you? Final conclusion. The salary is not the enemy. It is the beginning. It funds the system while the system is being built. It provides the stability that system building requires in the early phases. It is the launch pad, not the destination. But too many people treat it as the destination. They optimize for the next raise, the next promotion, the next salary band, and 40 years pass and the only asset they have ever built is a career that belongs to an organization that never fully belonged to them. You were not designed to rent your time for a fixed price forever. You were designed to create, to build, to generate value in ways that outlast any single hour of effort. To construct something that earns while you rest, while you travel, while you are present with the people who matter most to you, while you sleep. That is the life on the other side of the system's mindset. Not effortless. Not immediate. But real. And permanent. And completely within your reach. The question has never been whether it is possible. The question is only whether you are willing to begin. Last 60-second emotional closing. 3 years from now, you will either be exactly where you are today, still trading hours for a salary that someone else controls, still one restructuring away from zero, still wondering if there is another way. Or you will have started. Not finished. Not arrived. Not wealthy beyond imagination. Just started. With the first piece of. The first system. The first content. The first product. The first proof that the other way is real. And that you are building it. And that start, however imperfect, however small, however uncertain it feels in the beginning. That start is the difference between everything and nothing. Not because of what it earns in month 1. Because of what it compounds into by year 5. The best time to start was 5 years ago. The second best time is today. You now know what most people never learn. You know the difference between a salary and a system. You know the mindset that changes everything. You know the systems available to anyone willing to build them. The only thing left is the choice. Begin. If this audiobook shifted something in how you think about money and time, share it with someone who is still only thinking about their next raise. Drop a comment below. Tell me which chapter hit hardest and what system you are going to start building. Subscribe for more content like this. Because this is just the beginning of what we are going to build together. Take care of yourself. Build deliberately. And remember, stop thinking in salaries. Build the system. And let it pay you for life. See you in the next one.